My name is Haley. I'm 19 now, but this all started when I was 18, just after I walked out of my parents' house. I'm living on my own for the first time, in a tiny studio apartment in the same city, just trying to get by. The bus ride home from the school trip was miserable. I was running a fever, my head was pounding, and all I could think about was collapsing in my own bed. I pushed the front door open, dragged my suitcase inside and went straight upstairs. But my room was gone. I mean, completely gone. My bed was gone. My desk was gone. My clothes were gone. In its place was an art studio. My sister's easel stood in the middle of the floor, canvases were stacked against the walls, and a new ring light was shining in the corner. I found my mom in the kitchen. She didn't look up from her phone. "Oh, you're back," she said. "Your sister needs the space for her art." "Don't be selfish, Haley," my dad called from the living room. I went to the garage. Everything I owned was crammed into damp cardboard boxes, shoved next to the trash. I walked back inside, took my house key off my keychain, and placed it quietly on the counter. Then I turned around and walked out. 3 months later, they found me. They knocked on the door of my tiny apartment, but they didn't bring an apology. They brought legal papers. My own parents were suing me for financial elder abuse. But before I tell you how everything flipped and subscribe, drop a comment. Where are you watching from? My name is Haley. I'm 19 now, but this all started when I was 18. Looking back, I don't know why I was so shocked that day. My room being gone was just the last step. They had been erasing me for years. My family was a 4-person operation, but only 3 of them seemed to be on the official roster. There was my dad, Mark, my mom, Karen, and my sister, Clara. Then there was me, the low-maintenance one, the independent one. Haley's so mature for her age. I must have heard that 1,000 times. My parents said it to their friends. They said it to my teachers. They said it to me, usually when they were explaining why they couldn't do something for me. When Clara turned 16, she wanted an art-themed party. That meant my dad spent a week building a fake Eiffel Tower in our backyard. My mom spent $100 on a custom cake shaped like a painter's palette. They hired a photographer. They invited 50 people. When I turned 16, I had to work a double shift at the coffee shop. My mom left a $20 bill on the kitchen counter with a note that said, "Happy birthday, honey. Don't spend it all in one place." I used it to put gas in my car, which I had bought with my own money. My parents didn't come to my high school awards night. I won a scholarship for academics and another for perfect attendance. They said they were busy at Clara's art show. It was a local gallery show, and she had one painting in the corner. I sat in the audience alone, next to my friend B's parents. When my name was called, they were the ones who clapped the loudest. I still have the certificates. I don't know why I keep them. When I got home that night, my parents were celebrating. "Clara's painting got an honorable mention," my dad announced, popping a bottle of sparkling cider. "We're so proud." I was holding 2 plaques, I just held them at my side. "Oh, did you get your thing?" my mom asked, not looking at me. "I got 2 actually," I said. "That's nice, Haley, you're so smart. You always handle things," she said, handing Clara a glass. "We just know we never have to worry about you. We never have to worry about you." That was the sentence of my childhood. It meant that when I got the flu in 10th grade with a 103-degree fever, my mom just pointed to the Tylenol. "You know the dose," she said, "and try to keep it down. Your sister has a big project due, and she needs her rest." But when Clara got a simple head cold, it was a full medical crisis. My mom would make homemade chicken soup. My dad would drive to 3 different stores to find the specific brand of tissues she liked. My mom would sit on Clara's bed, feel her forehead, and coo. I learned to be quiet. I learned to be invisible. I learned to make my own dentist appointments. I learned to buy my own textbooks, because Clara needs new brushes, Haley, and those things are not cheap. I got a job at a coffee shop when I was 16. Then I got a second job shelving books at the library. I needed the money for my car, for my clothes, for college applications. My parents thought it was a great hobby. "Look at her," my dad would say to his friends. "Such a hard worker, our Haley." But when Clara wanted to focus on her portfolio, my parents paid for everything. Her car, her gas, her expensive art classes, her inspiration trips to the city. I remember one specific Saturday, I was exhausted. I had worked the 5 a.m. opening shift at the coffee shop, then went straight to the library for a 4-hour shift. I came home, and my feet were aching. My hands smelled like burnt coffee and old paper. Clara was in the kitchen, complaining. I just don't feel inspired, she was telling my mom. I think I need a new tablet. The pressure sensitivity on mine is just off. My mom was rubbing her shoulders. I know, sweetie, it's so hard when your tools betray you. We'll go to the art store tomorrow and get the best one, okay? I just stood in the doorway. Neither of them even noticed me. I went upstairs to my room, the one that was still mine, and did my calculus homework. That was the trade. I was praised for needing nothing. Clara was rewarded for needing everything. You're so mature. You're so independent. You're so low maintenance. What they meant was, we don't have to think about you. What they meant was, you are not a priority. What they meant was, please take care of yourself because we are very, very busy loving your sister. So when I stood in the hallway, looking at my empty room, I shouldn't have been surprised. I had been low maintenance for so long that they finally just maintained me right out of the house. I was so independent that they figured I could be independent in the garage. I was the invisible child. And I had finally completely disappeared. I walked for hours. I don't even know where I went. The key on the counter was a tiny, small sound. It was the only sound in the house. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't cried. I hadn't asked why. I just left. I walked down my street, past the park, past the library where I worked. I just kept my feet moving. The air was cold and I was still sick from the trip. My head was pounding, or maybe that was my heart. I couldn't tell. I didn't have my suitcase. I didn't have my wallet. I had my phone, my school ID, and the clothes I was wearing. I finally sat down on a bus bench, miles from my house. It was getting dark. The streetlights flickered on, and that's when I broke. It wasn't a loud, sobbing cry. It was silent. The tears just started leaking out of my eyes and wouldn't stop. It was like all the tears I hadn't cried for 18 years decided to show up all at once. I was crying for the birthday parties I never had. I was crying for the awards night I sat through alone. I was crying for the girl who had to make her own dentist appointments. And I was crying because I realized, with a cold, hard stone in my stomach, that they weren't going to call me. They weren't going to text, "Haley, where are you?" They weren't going to drive around looking for me. They had given my room away. They didn't care where I slept. They just cared that Clara had space. I sat there until my clothes were damp and I was shaking from the cold. I had one person to call. My friend B. "Haley, where are you? You were supposed to be back today," she said. Her voice was warm and it made me want to cry all over again. "Can I come over?" I whispered. My throat was tight. "Just for tonight." "Of course," she said instantly. "Are you okay? You sound weird." "I'm on the bus bench by the library," I said. "Stay there, I'm coming." B didn't ask questions. She just pulled up, opened the passenger door and looked at my face. "Oh, honey," she said. She took me to her tiny apartment, sat me on her worn-out couch and wrapped me in a blanket. She made me hot tea. "They gave my room away," I finally said. B just listened. I told her everything. The art studio, the boxes in the garage, my dad saying, "Don't be selfish." She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You can stay here as long as you need. The couch is terrible, but it's yours." I stayed on that couch for 2 weeks. I felt like a ghost. I was a burden, a charity case, living in B's living room. I tried to make myself small. I cleaned her apartment spotlessly. I bought groceries with the little money I had in my bank account from my library job. I was terrified she would get tired of me and ask me to leave. I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. But the worst part, the validation, my phone never rang, not a single text from my mom, not a single missed call from my dad. Clara didn't message me on social media. Nothing. I didn't exist. I had vanished from their home and they hadn't even noticed. Or maybe they had and they were relieved. The low-maintenance child had finally achieved peak low maintenance. She had taken herself out with the trash. After 2 weeks, I knew I couldn't stay with B forever. She would have let me, but I couldn't stand being a burden. There was one other person, the only person in my entire family who ever really saw me. My grandma, my dad's mom. I took the bus to the senior home. It wasn't a fancy place. It was modest, clean, and smelled like antiseptic and overcooked vegetables. Grandma was in her room, reading a mystery novel. She was small and sharp, like a little bird. Her eyes were bright. "Well, look at you," she said, putting her book down. "You look like hell, Haley." That was my grandma. I sat on the little plastic-covered chair by her bed. "You're not at home," she said. It wasn't a question. "No, Grandma. And you're not at that school trip anymore. So where have you been?" I tried to be low maintenance. I tried to say, "Oh, I'm just staying with a friend." But I looked at her and her sharp, knowing eyes and I just broke. I told her everything, the school trip, The fever, the missing room, the art studio, the boxes, my dad's voice, my mom's shrug, the key on the counter. I told her about the 2 weeks of silence, about the phone that never rang. I was ready for her to be sad. I was ready for her to be angry at me for leaving. I was ready for her to say, "You should go home and apologize." She was very, very quiet. She stared at the wall for a long time. I was worried I had upset her. "Grandma," I whispered. She turned her head and looked at me. Her eyes were clear. She reached out her small, wrinkled hand and put it on my arm. "Good," she whispered. I stared at her. "Good, good," she said again, stronger this time. "You're finally out, it took you long enough." I didn't understand. "Grandma, what are you talking about?" "I've been in this place for 2 years," she said, her voice low and sharp. "Do you know how many times your father and mother have visited me?" 4, twice on my birthday, twice on Christmas, and they stayed for exactly 30 minutes each time. "But they said," I started. "I know what they said," she snapped. "They said I was happier here. They told the family I wanted to downsize. Your father, my son, told me this was a financial necessity after a bad investment. He's been bad at investing his entire life." She pushed herself up a little higher on her pillows. "I'm not stupid, Haley. I just got old, and I've been watching them. I watched how they treated you, how they paraded Clara around like a prize pig, and how they treated you like the help." Hush," she said. "I've been watching you too. I watched you get 2 jobs. I watched you buy your own car. I watched you win those awards and walk in that house, and I saw your face, Haley. I saw how invisible you felt." She pointed to the little locked nightstand next to her bed. "My keys, in the top drawer of the dresser. I got them for her." My hands were shaking. She unlocked the drawer and pulled something out. It was a thick brown manila envelope worn at the edges. It looked old. She held it out to me. "What is this?" I asked. "It's your out," she said. "I started it 5 years ago. I've been putting money aside, just a little at a time, for years, long before your father put me in this waiting room for death." I just stared at the envelope. "Go on, take it," she insisted. I opened the flap. Inside there were papers. Legal papers, a bank book, a set of keys, and a letter addressed to me in her shaky handwriting. "Grandma, I can't," I whispered. It felt wrong. It felt like stealing. "This is your money." "What am I going to do with it?" she said, gesturing around the tiny beige room. "Buy a new brand of terrible pudding. This isn't for me, Haley. This is for you. I've been preparing this for years. A safety plan." I pulled out the bank book. The balance made my head spin. It wasn't millions, but it was more money than I had ever seen. It was enough. "How? Your grandfather, God rest his soul, was a careful man." "And so am I," she said. "I'm not losing anything, Haley. I'm investing. I'm investing in the only person in that family who has a damn bit of sense. I'm giving you what the world refused to give you." A start. I was crying again, but these were different tears. They were tears of, I don't even know, shock, gratitude. "There's a lawyer," she said, pointing to a business card in the envelope. "Mr. Cohen, his number is in there. I've already spoken to him. He's been managing this. He knows you. He's expecting you." The papers were legal documents drawn up by Mr. Cohen. It was a trust. A small preparation fund, as the outline called it, that I could access now that I was 18. I tried to refuse again. "Grandma, they'll be so angry." "Let them be angry," she said. Her voice was pure steel. "They took my house. They took my freedom. They are not taking my money. And they are not taking you." She gripped my hand. Her skin was like paper, but her grip was strong. "You will take this. You will call Mr. Cohen. You will find a small, safe place to live. And you will not tell a single soul, especially not your parents. Do you understand me?" "Yes, Grandma," I said. "Good, now give me a hug. You still feel too skinny." I met Mr. Cohen the next day. He was a kind, older man in a small, tidy office. He explained everything. The fund was set up to pay for my living expenses and my education. It was protected. It was mine. "Your grandmother is a very smart woman," he said, signing the last paper. "She saw this coming." That week, I found an apartment. It was a tiny studio, what they call a bachelor apartment. It was 1 room. It had a kitchenette in the corner with a mini fridge and a hot plate. It had a small bathroom with a shower that dripped. It was empty. The walls were a pale, sad yellow. It smelled like dust. I signed the lease. I went to a discount store. I bought a pillow, a blanket, a towel, a bar of soap, and a box of instant noodles. That night I slept on the floor of my own apartment. I didn't have a bed. I didn't have a desk. I didn't have an easel or a ring light. But I had a locked door, I had a key, and it was all mine. For the first time in my entire life, I wasn't invisible. I was home. I had been in the apartment for 3 months. It was slowly starting to look like a place a person lived. I had a cheap mattress I bought online. I had a second-hand desk and a chair. I was still working at the library, and I had enrolled in classes at the local community college. I was making instant ramen on my hot plate, a textbook open on my desk. It was quiet. I was finally starting to breathe. Then came the knock. It wasn't a friendly knock. It was 3 hard, loud knocks that shook the thin door. Bam. Bam, bam, my heart jumped into my throat. I wasn't expecting anyone. Be always texted first. I looked through the peephole. My blood turned to ice. It was my parents. My father, Mark. My mother, Karen. They were standing in the hallway of my cheap apartment building, and they looked polished. My dad was in a suit. My mom had her hair and makeup done. They looked like they were going to a business meeting, not visiting their runaway daughter. They looked furious. Bam, bam, bam. Haley, my father's voice boomed. We know you're in there. Open this door. I was frozen. What did they want? How did they find me? Haley, so help me God, my mom's voice, sharp and high. Don't make a scene. I slowly unlatched the deadbolt. I opened the door just a crack. My mother pushed it open, shoving me back into the room. They stepped inside, and their presence made my tiny apartment feel even smaller. They didn't look at me, they looked around me. Their faces were disgusted. They looked at my hot plate. They looked at my mattress on the floor. Good, my mother said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. This is just sad. Is this what you wanted? To live in a slum? We're here to talk about your grandmother, my dad said. He had a briefcase. He put it on my desk and snapped it open. I haven't seen you in 3 months, I whispered. My voice was shaking. You didn't call. You didn't? Oh, don't you start, my mom snapped. Don't you dare play the victim, Haley. We know what you've done. What I've done? My dad pulled out a stack of papers. We know you've been seeing Grandma. We know you've been poisoning her against us. I haven't. You manipulated her, my father said. He said it like a fact, like he was reading a report. Our mother is a confused, elderly woman. She is not mentally sound. And you took advantage of her. I couldn't speak, I just stared at him. She's not confused, I finally managed to say. She's smarter than both of you. My mother let out a small, ugly laugh. Smarter, honey, she's senile. And you're a thief. You've been manipulating her for her money. You've been committing elder financial abuse. That's when he handed me the papers. I looked down at them. They were legal documents, an official summons. Mark and Karen last name versus Haley last name. They were suing me. My own parents were suing me. The document claimed that I had unduly influenced my grandmother, coerced her into giving me money, and isolated her from her loving family. They were petitioning the court for emergency control of all of Grandma's accounts. They wanted total financial control. They wanted to become her legal guardians. I read the words financial elder abuse over and over. They weren't there to apologize. They weren't there to bring me home. They were there to protect their inheritance. They saw Grandma's money. They saw it as theirs. They saw it as Clara's, probably. And I was in the way. My dad was talking. And the court will see that she is incompetent. We're having her declared mentally unfit. And you, young lady, are going to be in a lot of trouble. They had it all rehearsed. The suits, the briefcase, the official papers. This was an attack. And then something inside me snapped. I started to laugh. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was a dry, empty, scraping sound. It was the sound of the last, tiniest thread of hope I ever had about them just turning to dust. It was the laugh of a person who has finally seen the absolute, total, ridiculous truth. My parents stopped. They stared at me. Their rehearsed anger turned into confusion. What is so funny? My mother demanded. You're ruining our family. No, I said, still laughing, but the tears were starting to come now. Hot, angry tears. No, you're wrong. I looked them right in the eye. My dad, my mom, the 2 people who were supposed to love me. You don't have a family to ruin, I said. You threw it away. You threw me away. My dad's face turned purple. You will give that money back, Haley, or we will see you in court. I'll see you in court, I said. My voice was suddenly steady. It was cold. They looked shocked. They expected me to cry, to beg, to give in. I was the low-maintenance daughter. I was supposed to be easy. My mother grabbed my father's arm. Mark, let's go. She's hysterical. She's not well. They turned and walked out. My mother gave me one last look over her shoulder. You've always been a selfish, jealous girl, she said. The door slammed shut. I stood there alone in my tiny room holding the lawsuit. The fear was real. They were my parents. They had lawyers. They were adults. But underneath the fear, something new was growing. It was cold, and it was hard, and it was clear. They thought I was the invisible child. They thought I was weak. They had no idea who they were dealing with. They had no idea who my grandma was. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely get the key into my apartment lock. I slammed the door shut, slid the deadbolt, and leaned against it. The lawsuit papers were still in my hand, crumpled from my grip. Financial elder abuse. They had called me a thief. They had called me selfish, but this was a new word, a legal word, a word that could put me in jail. I sank to the floor. All the cold, hard strength I had felt when they were here just evaporated. I was 18 years old. My parents were in their 40s. They had money. They had nice suits. They had a lawyer who wasn't in a small, tidy office. What chance did I have? I had brought this on my grandmother. This was my fault. I had taken the money. I had let her help me. I had dragged her into my mess. I cried. I cried for a long time on the floor of my little hallway. But I knew I couldn't just sit there. I had to go to the two people who were on my side. Mr. Cohen and my grandma. I called Mr. Cohen first. His office was closed. I left a message, my voice small and shaky. Mr. Cohen, it's Haley, my parents. They came to my apartment. They're suing me. They're suing us. They say I'm abusing grandma. Please call me back. I couldn't wait. I had to see her. I took the long bus ride to her senior home. The whole way my stomach was in knots. How could I tell her? How could I tell this woman, who had already lost so much, that her own son was now trying to have her declared insane? All because she was kind to me. When I got to her room, she was watching a game show. Well, you look like you've seen a ghost, she said, clicking the TV off with the remote. What's wrong? You're pale. I just held out the papers. I couldn't speak. She put on her reading glasses, which she hated, and took them from me. I watched her face. I expected her to look scared. I expected her to look hurt. She didn't. Her face got very, very still. She read every word. She read the accusations from her son, my father. She read my mother's name. She read the part about me, Haley, unduly influencing her. She read the part about her being confused and not mentally sound. She finished the last page, put the papers neatly on her lap, and took off her glasses. She looked at me. That ungrateful, greedy, spoiled brat of a son, she said. Her voice was pure ice. Grandma, I'm so sorry, I whispered, the tears starting again. This is my fault. I'll give the money back. You will do no such thing, she snapped. It was the loudest I had ever heard her speak. She sat up straight, and suddenly she didn't look like a small, frail old woman. She looked like a general. You didn't do this, Haley, she said. I did. This was my plan. This was my money. And this is their greed. They just showed their whole hand, the fools. She pointed to her closet. Get me my good shoes, she said. What? Grandma, it's late. I don't care what time it is. Get me my good shoes, the black ones, and get me my purse. Then you're going to call that nice Mr. Cohen and tell him we are meeting him tomorrow morning. And first thing before that, we are going to my doctor. The doctor? Yes, the doctor, she said. If my son wants to say I'm confused, I'm going to get a professional opinion that says he's a moron. I'm going to get a full cognitive evaluation. We are going to shut this down before it even starts. She was on fire. The fear was gone, and in its place was this new, strange hope. My grandma wasn't a victim. She was a fighter. The next morning was a whirlwind. Mr. Cohen called me back at 8 a.m. I got your message, Haley, he said. He sounded calm. Don't you worry, your grandmother is a very smart woman and I am a very good lawyer. She wants to see you, I said. But first she wants to go to her doctor. An evaluation, Mr. Cohen said. He actually chuckled. That's brilliant. That's exactly right. You get her there, get the report in writing. I'll file it with our response. I took my grandma to Dr. Patel, her primary care physician for 10 years. I had to help her out of the car, and she leaned on me heavily. But when she sat in that office, she was sharp as a tack. Dr. Patel, she said, my son Mark thinks I'm senile. I need you to prove him wrong. Give me the test. Give me all of them. The doctor looked at me, confused, and I just handed her the lawsuit. She read the first page and her lips got tight. I see, she said. All right, Margaret, let's do this. For an hour, she put my grandma through every cognitive test. What year is it? It's 2025, Grandma said. And it's a mess. Who is the president? That actor who thinks he's a politician. Next question. I'm going to give you 3 words to remember. Apple, table, penny. I'll ask you for them later. Apple, table, penny, Grandma repeated. Like I'm a child, fine, they went on. She had to draw a clock. She had to identify patterns. She had to answer questions about her health, her finances, her life. At the end, Dr. Patel sat back and folded her hands. Well, Margaret, your memory is frankly better than mine. You are 100% sound of mind. You are showing no signs of cognitive decline or confusion. You are perfectly, and I mean perfectly, competent to make all your own decisions. I know that, Grandma said. Now put it in writing. I'll have my office type up a full, notarized report, and I will send it to your lawyer directly, Dr. Patel said. She looked at me, and I'm happy to testify to that in court. When we left the doctor's office, Grandma was smiling. Our next stop was Mr. Cohen's office. He had the lawsuit on his desk. This is an ugly, ugly thing they've done, he said. But it's also sloppy. They're emotional, they're angry, and they've left us a wide-open door. I have the doctor's report, I said, feeling proud. That's our first bullet, he said, nodding. Now for our second, the staff at the senior home. He looked at me. Haley, they know you, they know your grandmother, and they know your parents. I'm going to call them and ask for affidavits. The head nurse. The activities director. Anyone who has seen the truth. They've seen my parents maybe 4 times in 2 years, Grandma said, sipping the tea Mr. Cohen had given her. They've seen Haley every single week, even when she was just a high school kid. Exactly, Mr. Cohen said. That will prove you are not isolated. It will prove they are the ones who isolated you. Then he pulled out a thick binder. And this, he said, is our final bullet. He opened it. It was full of letters, emails, memos. All from my grandma to him, dating back 5 years. As you can see, he said, your grandmother and I began planning this preparation fund, as she called it, 5 years ago, long before she was in any home. Long before any of this. He pointed to a letter. It was from my grandma. My son Mark is irresponsible with money, it said. I am worried about my granddaughter, Haley. She is the only one who sees me. I want to set something aside for her, a safety plan, in case they ever. I couldn't read the rest. This document, Mr. Cohen said, proves that this was not undue influence. This was not a confused, old woman being manipulated. This was a loving, careful, and planned gift from a grandmother who saw this storm coming a mile away. I looked at my grandma. She was watching me. We are not the victims here, Haley, Mr. Cohen said, closing the binder. We are the defense, and we are going to win. I finally understood. I had been walking around my whole life thinking I was the invisible, low-maintenance, quiet one. I thought I was the problem. But in this office, it all became clear. My parents weren't trying to protect their confused mother. They were trying to protect their access to her money. They saw her as a bank account. They saw me as a thief who had stolen their PIN. It was never about love. It was never about family. It was just about the money, and they were willing to destroy me and my grandma's reputation to get it. Okay, I said. My voice was steady again. What do we do next? The day of the court hearing, I felt like I was going to be sick. I had put on my only good outfit, a black skirt and a white blouse I'd bought at a thrift store. I met Mr. Cohen and my grandma at the courthouse. Grandma was in her wheelchair, but she had insisted on wearing her Sunday best, a neat blue suit and her small pearl earrings. She looked like a queen. Chin up, Haley, she whispered to me as we went through the metal detectors. We're here to tell the truth. It's the easiest thing in the world. I wasn't so sure. When we got to the courtroom, I saw them, my parents. They were sitting at the plaintiff's table with a man in an expensive-looking suit. My father looked angry and important. My mother was dabbing her eyes with a tissue, even though no tears were coming. She was playing the part of the worried daughter-in-law. It made me sick. I was surprised to see that my sister, Clara, wasn't there. Of course she wasn't. She was the star. Stars don't have to show up for the ugly parts. She was probably in her new studio, my old room, waiting for my parents to come home with the money she needed for more art supplies. We sat down at the defense table. The room was quiet. I could feel my parents staring at me. I refused to look at them. All rise, the bailiff said. The judge came in. She was an older woman with sharp eyes, just like my grandma's. She looked tired. She looked like she didn't have time for nonsense. She read the case file. Mark and Karen last name versus Haley last name and Margaret last name. She looked over her glasses at us. This is a petition for an emergency guardianship based on claims of elder financial abuse and mental incompetence. She looked at my parents' lawyer. You're the petitioner, begin. For 20 minutes their lawyer talked. He painted a picture of a vulnerable, confused, elderly woman, my grandma, and a grasping, manipulative, and deeply troubled granddaughter, me. He said I had isolated my grandma. He said I had coerced her into giving me money. He said I was living large off her funds while her loving son and daughter-in-law were worried sick. Living large, I whispered to Mr. Cohen. I thought about my tiny studio apartment and my dinners of instant noodles. He's painting a picture, Mr. Cohen whispered back. Now watch us paint a better one. When it was our turn, Mr. Cohen stood up. He was calm. He was organized. Your Honor, he said, we are here to refute these claims, which are not just false but frankly cruel. He didn't start with me. He started with my grandma. The petitioners claim that my client Margaret is mentally incompetent. Your Honor, I would like to submit into evidence Exhibit A, a full cognitive and medical evaluation, performed yesterday by Dr. Anita Patel, my client's physician of 10 years. The judge read the report. Her eyebrows went up. According to this, the judge said, Dr. Patel finds the defendant to be 100% sound of mind and possessing a memory better than her own. These are not the words of a doctor describing an incompetent person. My mother stopped dabbing her eyes. My father's face got red. Next, Mr. Cohen said, the petitioners claim that their mother has been isolated by her granddaughter. I would like to call to the stand Miss Jenna Riley. Jenna was the head nurse from my grandma's senior home. She was in her scrubs. She looked nervous but determined. Mr. Cohen asked her simple questions. Miss Riley, how long have you worked at the senior home? 8 years. In that time, how often have you seen the petitioners, Mark and Karen, visiting Margaret? Jenna looked at my parents. Maybe 5 or 6 times, total, on holidays mostly, they never stay long. I see, and how often, Mr. Cohen asked, do you see the defendant Haley? Jenna smiled at me. I see Haley every week, at least. She was here every Sunday, even in high school, taking her grandma out. She's the only one who visits. She's the only family Margaret talks about. They play cards. Haley reads to her. She's not isolating her. She's supporting her. Thank you, Miss Riley, no further questions. My dad's lawyer tried to ask her questions, but she wouldn't budge. No, sir, she said. Margaret is not confused, no, sir. Haley is a very good girl. The judge was tapping her pen. She looked annoyed. Finally, Mr. Cohen said, we have the matter of the financial abuse. The petitioners claim this was a recent, coerced transaction. He held up the thick binder. Your Honor, this is Exhibit B. It is 5 years of correspondence between my client, Margaret, and my office. It details the creation of a preparation fund for her granddaughter. He opened it. I direct you to a letter dated May 14, 2020, 3 years before my client was ever placed in a senior home. She writes, my son is irresponsible. I am worried about Haley. I want to set something aside for her, a safety plan. The judge read the letter. Then she read another one. And another one. The courtroom was completely silent. I could hear my dad's heavy, angry breathing. Finally, the judge took off her glasses. She looked at my parents. She looked at them for a long, cold minute. I have seen a lot of things in this courtroom, she said. Her voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. I have seen real abuse. I have seen real neglect. This is not it. She looked at my parents. What this is a greedy, frivolous, and frankly disgusting attempt by a son and daughter-in-law to steal their mother's money, and to use their own daughter as a scapegoat. My mother gasped. You have brought a baseless petition to my court, the judge continued. You have wasted the court's time, you have slandered your daughter, and you have insulted your mother. She looked at my grandma. Ma'am, you are clearly 100% competent, your planning was as impeccable. She banged her gavel. This petition is dismissed with extreme prejudice. That means you can never, ever bring this claim again. I am ordering the petitioners, Mark and Karen, to pay all legal fees for the defendants. She looked at my parents' lawyer. And counsel, I am frankly shocked you even brought this to me. You are walking a very fine line. She banged the gavel again. We are done here. It was over just like that. My dad was purple. My mom was, for the first time, actually crying real, angry tears. Their expensive lawyer turned to them. He snapped his briefcase shut. Don't call my office, he said, his voice low. I am resigning as your counsel. You are uncooperative and you lied to me. He walked out. My parents were left sitting there alone at the table. Mr. Cohen patted my arm. Let's go, he said. We walked right past them. I didn't look at them. I just kept my eyes on my grandma. That week the phone started ringing, It was my aunts, my uncles. Haley, I just heard. What really happened in that courtroom? Your mother said you had stolen. The family was starting to question their lies. The public record was there for anyone to see. The collapse had begun. A few days later, we were back in Mr. Cohen's office. This time the mood was different. We have to update your paperwork, Margaret, he said. That's right, Grandma said. She took a pen. First, medical proxy, that's Haley. I don't want my son or that woman he married making any decisions for me, ever. She signed the paper. And second, she said, the will. Mr. Cohen put another document in front of her. My son and daughter-in-law already spent their inheritance, she said, her voice clear. They spent it when they put me in that terrible home. They spent it when they sued me. They don't get another dime. She looked at me and her eyes were soft. It's all yours, Haley, all of it, the house, the accounts, everything. I'm not leaving you a fund. I'm leaving you a future. She signed her name. It wasn't about the money. It was about the trust. It was about the love. She had given me her name, her protection, and her legacy. And my parents, they had gotten exactly what they deserved. Nothing. The months after the court case were quiet. It was like the world had been holding its breath, and it finally let it out. The phone calls from angry relatives stopped. The fear of seeing my parents around every corner started to fade. I was free. I focused on my classes at the community college. I kept my job at the library. I saved my money. The trust fund was there, but it was for the future. I was still living on my own steam. One day in April, I got a thick envelope in the mail. It was from the state university. I had applied, using my scholarship winnings and my good grades, but I never thought. I opened it. My hands were shaking. Dear Miss Haley, last name, we are pleased to offer you a full academic scholarship. A full scholarship. Not a loan, not a handout, something I had earned. I ran all the way to the bus stop and went straight to my grandma's. I burst into her room, waving the letter. I got in, Grandma, I got in, a full scholarship, she cried. I had never seen her cry before. I knew you would, she said, wiping her eyes. I knew you were smart. You just needed a chance to get away from them. The university was 3 hours away. It was a new city, a new start, but I had a problem. I can't go, I told her, sitting on her bed. I can't leave you. What if they try to come back? What if— Hush, she said. You are going, I am not letting you throw this away. But I won't be able to see you every week. Then we fixed that, she said. That's when we got the idea, the new care home. With Mr. Cohen's help, we used a part of the trust fund her money, she insisted, to find a new place. It wasn't like the old one. This new home was bright. It had a garden. It was 5 minutes from my new university campus. I'm paying for the upgrade, I told her as we signed the papers. I had been working 2 jobs all summer. You paid for my apartment, I'm paying for yours. It's not terrible, she said, as she settled into her new, sunny room. It was her highest compliment. My new life began. It was a blur. It was hard. My days were packed. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. in my tiny new dorm room. I had a full course load. I was studying to be a librarian, like the people who had been so kind to me. After my classes, I would go to my work-study job in the campus library. I loved the smell of the old books. I loved the quiet. It was a safe place. And every single day, after my shift, I would walk the 5 minutes to Grandma's new home. Sometimes I would just sit on her bed and do my homework while she watched her game shows. Sometimes we would play cards. Sometimes, I would just tell her about my day. This boy in my history class, I'd say, he tried to explain the reading to me. I had to tell him I did the reading and he was wrong. Good, she'd cackle. Don't let these men push you around. I was healing. The nightmares about my parents showing up at my door started to stop. I was building a life that was so full, so busy, that there was no room for them in it. I wasn't just surviving, I was living. The years went by. 1 year, 2, 3, I made friends. I went to a few parties. I learned how to cook something other than instant noodles. I never heard from my parents. I never heard from Clara. It was like they had fallen off the face of the earth. I was fine with that. On my college graduation day, I wore my cap and gown. I looked out at the audience. There was my friend B, who had driven all the way up. And right in the front row, in her wheelchair, was my grandma. She was wearing her blue suit and her pearls. When they called my name, Haley last name, summa cum laude, I looked right at her. She was clapping so hard, her whole body was shaking. I wasn't the invisible child. I wasn't the extra. I was a college graduate, I was a success, and I had done it. We had done it. After graduation, I got my first real job. I was hired as a research librarian at the university. It came with a real salary. The first thing I did was move out of the dorms and get my own, real apartment. It had a separate bedroom. It had a real kitchen. It had a balcony with room for a chair. I kept visiting my grandma. Our routine didn't change, but I changed. I was an adult. I was paying my own bills. I was independent, but this time it wasn't a punishment, it was a victory. Grandma was getting older. She was frailer. Some days she slept more. But her mind was always sharp. "Are you happy, Haley?" she asked me one Sunday. We were sitting on her little patio watching the birds. "Yes, Grandma," I said, holding her hand. It felt like paper. "I'm really happy." "Good," she said. "That's all I ever wanted." She started to slow down. The visits became quieter. I would read to her. I would just sit with her. I became her caretaker, but it was a privilege, not a burden. It was the easiest, most natural thing in the world to make sure she was comfortable. To give her the love she had always given me. One Tuesday night, I got a call from the home. She was fading. I ran the 5 minutes. I sat by her bed. I held her hand. "It's okay, Grandma," I whispered. "I'm here, I'm safe, you did it, you can rest." She squeezed my hand, just a tiny bit. "You're okay," she whispered, her eyes closed. "My girl. You're okay." She passed away that night, peacefully in her sleep, while I held her hand. I was sad. I was so sad. I had lost the only person who had ever truly loved me. But as I sat there in the quiet of the room, I wasn't broken. I wasn't lost. She had given me everything I needed to survive. She had saved me. And now, my real life, the one she had bought for me, could begin. The funeral was small. It was just me. My friend B came. Mr. Cohen came. And a few of the nurses from the home, the ones who had loved my grandma, came too. It was a quiet, gray day. We buried her next to my grandfather, just like she had wanted. My parents did not come. My sister did not come. Mr. Cohen, as the executor of the will, had sent them the legal notification of her death. He had also sent them a copy of the will. He told me, for transparency. Their response was silence. They didn't call. They didn't send flowers. They didn't show up. It was like she and I had never existed. A week later, Mr. Cohen called me into his office to sign the last of the paperwork. The house, the accounts. It was all mine now. It felt strange. "She left this for you," he said. He handed me a small, sealed envelope. It wasn't a legal document. It was a personal one. I opened it in my car. It was her handwriting, shaky but clear. "My dearest Haley, if you're reading this, I am gone. Don't be sad. I was old and I was tired. And I was so proud of you. They told me you were low maintenance. I told them you were a survivor. You gave me a second life, Haley. You came to see me. You made me laugh. You gave me a reason to fight. You gave me a reason to live. I hope I gave you yours. Don't let them break you. Live your life, be happy. That will be the only revenge that matters. I love you." Grandma, I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried. But it wasn't the same as before. These were not tears of pain or fear. They were tears of love, tears of release. She was right. I had to live. In the months that followed, the rest of the story trickled in. I didn't seek it out, it just found me. My aunt, my dad's sister, called me. She was hesitant. "Haley, honey, it's your Aunt Susan." "Hi, Aunt Susan," I said. I was polite. I was not warm. "I'm so sorry for your loss, your grandma. She was a wonderful woman." "Yes, she was," I said. "And I'm sorry for all of it. I have to tell you, your parents, your father, he's been telling the whole family that you stole all the money. That you tricked your grandma, and that's why they weren't in the will. He's telling everyone she was senile to the very end." I just listened. I wasn't angry. I wasn't surprised. "Aunt Susan," I said, my voice calm. "The court hearing was a matter of public record. The judge's ruling is a public document. My grandma's cognitive evaluation is in that file. If you or anyone else in the family wants to know the truth, you can go to the courthouse and read it." There was a long silence on the line. "Oh," she said. "Oh, I see." I found out later that she did. She and my Uncle David went to the courthouse. They read the judge's brutal, final ruling. They read the nurse's testimony. They read the doctor's report. And then they told the rest of the family. The lies my parents had built their lives on finally crumbled. The family saw the truth. They saw my father and mother for who they were, greedy, cruel, and liars. One by one, the family cut them off. They were the ones who were isolated now. They were the ones no one called. They were the ones who spent holidays alone. I didn't do anything. I just lived my life. The truth did all the work for me. My life was quiet. It was good. I had my job at the library. I had my nice, safe apartment. I had B. One day, about a year after the funeral, I was in the local craft store. I was looking for a new frame for a picture of me and Grandma. I was waiting in line and I looked at the cashier. It was Clara, my sister, the star, the artist. She wasn't a star. She was wearing a red vest that didn't fit and her hair was messy. She looked tired. She was ringing up a pile of fake flowers for a customer. Our eyes met. I saw a flash of something in her face. Shock, panic, and then embarrassment. She looked away. She ducked her head down and kept scanning, pretending she hadn't seen me. I just stood there for a moment. I was in my work clothes, my nice coat. I was on my way to my good job, to my peaceful life. I thought I would feel angry. I thought I would feel smug. I thought I would want to walk up to her and say, "How does it feel? How does it feel to be the one no one sees?" But I didn't. I just felt nothing. She wasn't the enemy. She wasn't the rival. She was just a person who had made her choices. She had chosen to be the center of their world, and when that world collapsed, she had collapsed with it. She had tied her life to them, and she was paying the price. I wasn't an extra. She wasn't a star. We were just two people. I put the frame back on the shelf. I didn't need it. I walked out of the store. I never looked back. I don't speak to my parents. I don't speak to my sister. It's not out of anger anymore. It's just clarity. My power isn't in yelling at them. It's not in getting revenge. My power is in my quiet apartment. It's in my college degree. It's in the job I love. My power is in the silence. It's the sound of my phone not ringing with drama. It's the sound of my own key in my own lock. It's the sound of a life I built, a life my grandmother saved, a life that is, finally, completely mine. My name is Haley. And if you're reading this, if you've listened to my story, it means you know what it feels like. You know what it feels like to be the quiet one. The extra. The person who is only praised when you don't need anything. For a long time, I thought I was the problem. I thought I was selfish for wanting what every child deserves, to be seen. To be loved. My parents told me I was jealous. They told me I was difficult. They told me I was ungrateful. The truth is I was just in the way. I was in the way of their narrative. I was in the way of their money. I was in the way of the perfect, shining star they wanted to build in my sister. So they tried to erase me. And when I wouldn't be erased, they tried to destroy me. When you grow up in a family like that, you start to believe their lies. You start to think that family is an obligation. That blood means you have to sit there and take the abuse. That love is supposed to hurt. You feel guilty. You feel guilty for wanting to leave. You feel guilty for surviving. You feel guilty for being happy when they are not. Let me tell you something I learned from my grandmother. Self-preservation is not selfish. Walking away is not weakness. Sometimes, walking away is the only thing that will save you. My quiet power, the thing my grandma gave me, wasn't just the money. The money was a tool, it was a key. The real power was the permission to leave, the permission to say no more, the permission to build my own life on my own terms. My family was supposed to love me. They didn't. My friend B, she was family. Mr. Cohen, in his own way, he was family. The nurses at the home who testified for us, they were family. And my grandma was a warrior. She was my real family. Some families break you. They are designed to. They find the one person who won't break, and they try to smash them into pieces. And sometimes, if you are the luckiest person in the world, one person will step in. One person will see you. One person will hand you a key, or an envelope, or a simple, powerful word. Good, you're finally out. If you don't have a grandmother like mine, then you have to be that person for yourself. You have to be the one who hands yourself the key. You have to be the one who gives yourself permission to leave the burning building. My life is quiet now. It is peaceful. I am not at war anymore. I won. Not by fighting them, but by outliving them. By outgrowing them. By simply being happy. If you have ever had to walk away from the people who were supposed to love you, you are not alone. If you have ever been the extra, the low-maintenance one, the one who had to raise yourself, you are not alone. Some families break you. Some grandmothers save you. And sometimes, walking away is the only way to survive. Drop your country or state in the comments. Let us know where you're watching from.